Good morning, Year 4, and welcome to the second week of home learning with your first lesson, that is reading. And today our LO is to infer, and we are going to underline or point to key information, combine our knowledge and clues from the text, and use evidence from the text to create something called a role on the wall, which I will explain in a minute. So, how do good readers make inferences? What are the things that we have to do to be able to infer? So if you remember, it's getting clues from the text. So we use word and text clues, picture clues if there are any. We define unknown words. We look for emotions. We use what we already know. We look for explanations of events, and we ask ourselves questions. So let's do a little starter to get us used to inference. So Sleepy Tom was late for school again. So what do we know about the person in this sentence? Why was he sleepy? Does it tell us? And how do we know that he is often late for school? Okay, so what do we know about the person in this sentence? Well, we know he's tired because it says Sleepy Tom, and we know he's late for school. Why was he sleepy? Now, it doesn't really tell us. We perhaps could infer that he hasn't had much sleep, just because it says Sleepy Tom. So we're using a clue there rather than evidence. How do we know that he's often late for school? Well, we have evidence there. It says again, so we know that he must have been late before. Okay. Right, let's read, before we start our inference questions, let's read the second chapter, which is what our questions are all going to be based on, of our story, Varjak Paw. Okay, chapter 2, listen carefully and follow along. What should he do? Things like this just didn't happen in the Contessa's house. Tell the family, they'd know what to do. Varjak rushed down the corridor. He could feel 2 pairs of identical black eyes watching him. But the cats didn't follow. They stayed by the stairs, guarding the way up. Fear and confusion scorched through Varjak's veins as he turned the corner. He raced to the kitchen, fast as he could go, faster still. Who were these cats? Who were the men? What did they want? He skidded to a halt by the kitchen, hesitated by the doorway. Everything seemed so normal. The whole family was in there. They were eating supper, munching and crunching from rows of china bowls, neat and regular. Bowls of food, bowls of water, round white saucers of full cream milk. He felt like a stranger watching from a distance. They looked so grand with their perfectly groomed silver blue fur, their green eyes, their tidy little collars around their necks. So you're ready to behave like a proper blue, said Father. Very good. Have you washed your paws, said Mother. There are cats, shouted Varjak. There are black cats in the house, and they... Varjak, said Mother. They came with a man, Varjak, said Father. He's gone up to Contessa's room. There was silence in the kitchen. The munching and crunching stopped. They all watched him, one great green accusing eye. I just don't understand, muttered Father. Why can't he be like everyone else? Who's he talking about there? Who's the he? You haven't washed your paws, have you, sweetheart? Said Mother. She came over and started scrubbing. Varjak bit his tongue. No one believed a word he said. It wasn't fair. In the middle of his family, he felt friendless and alone. Come and eat with us, Varjak, said Cousin Jasmine. The food's ever so nice. Jasmine's voice was cool and smooth, like milk in the morning. I don't want to eat, he tried to explain. There are black cats in the house. Oh, who cares what that little insect does, said Julius. I'll have Varjak's food. You have to eat to build your muscles. Julius puffed himself up and tucked into Varjak's bowl. Jasmine looked impressed. You hear that, Varjak, said Father proudly. Julius is a proper Mesopotamian blue. Varjak bristled. Julius might be the family hero, but Varjak knew something no one else did, something important. How could he make them believe him? On Jalal's name, I swear it's true. He insisted. The cats are guarding the stairs right now. I looked into their eyes. He shivered at the memory. They're all black. Enough, yelled father. That's enough of these tales. He spat out the word tales with particular disgust. Ah, but some tales are true, said the elder Paw quietly. Why don't you show us, Varjak? Take us to the cats. Father scowled at the elder Paw, but kept quiet. The head of the family always had final say. Varjak's grandfather was getting old. His fine fur was almost all silver, and he seldom spoke up these days, but everyone listened when he did. Stomach knotted with nerves, Varjak led them down the corridor. He turned the corner into the hallway, just in time to glimpse a blur of movement by the front door. The first man was holding it open for the others. They were carrying something away. Down by their shoes, 2 black tails swished out of the house. The man shut the door as the rest of Varjak's family entered the hallway. They hadn't seen the others or the black cats. All they could see was the man. Why, it's a gentleman, said Mother. I remember when we were kittens, said Aunt Jeannie. There were ladies and gentlemen here every day. The Contessa always had visitors. They looked up the stairs. The Contessa's door was wide open. There was no one in her room. It was empty. Surprise rippled around the family. Not knowing what to think, they peered up at the gentleman, all except the elder Paw, who seemed thoughtful, as if he was trying to remember something. The gentleman pointed up at the Contessa's room and said something in his voice like thunder, high above their heads. Then he crouched down, bringing himself closer to their level. His wet pink lips smiled at each of them in turn. Varjak glanced nervously at the front door. The black cat hadn't come back. He hoped they wouldn't. With a flourish, the gentleman brought something out of his pocket. He held it out on his waxy white hand and murmured to the family. Curious, they edged a little closer to see what it was. A toy mouse. Small, grey, furry. It was perfect in every way, so precisely detailed it could almost be alive. The gentleman placed it on the floor in front of them. Varjak sniffed the mouse. It even smelled real. A tingle of wonder ran through him. He always wanted to hunt a mouse. Let me see that, said Father. He exclaimed the toy. Amazing, he purred and batted it across to Julius. Julius flicked it stylishly through the air to Jay, to Jethro, to Jerome. They giggled. Varjak wondered if he'd get it back. Probably not. What a beautiful toy, said Mother. It's the best present we've ever had, cooed Jasmine. The gentleman smiled and stood up to his full height. He waved at them to follow as his shiny black shoes went clicking towards the kitchen. Jay, Jethro, and Jerome raced to be first beside him. Come on, said Father. Let's see what he's going to do next. In the kitchen, the gentleman was spooning something into their bowls. It was an oily black paste with a sharp, fishy smell. Varjak's nose wrinkled at it. Ugh, he said. That's caviar, whispered Mother. The rarest, most expensive food in the world. Treats like this are only given to the finest pedigree cats, purred Father. The gentleman knows how important we are. The man put the bowls back on the floor, heaped high with fishy food, and beamed down at them. His pink lips glistened as the cat started to sniff the caviar. He nodded, turned and left the kitchen, smiling all the way. What was all the fuss about, Varjak? Said Father. The moment he was gone. And the black cat, nonsense. I'm calling a family council, interrupted the elder Paw. Now everyone is to attend, even the kittens. But elder Paw protested, Father, eyeing the bowls of caviar. Family council is only for emergencies. It's, now repeated the elder Paw, now in the front room. The elder Paw strode away. Varjak glanced anxiously at Father's face. It was twisted with speechless rage. So, what do we know about Varjak's parents? So we're going to use something called roll on the wall. Roll on the wall is a strategy that invites us to infer meaning about a character and to visually map the relationship between characteristics, so your emotions, and the actions, the behaviours, onto a simple outline of the character. So I found, it's not exactly right, but I found a picture of what I thought looked a little bit like the mother. And we're going to think, when we do this, we want to think what clues tell us this and what evidence do we have, okay? So let's think about some emotions and how she behaves. So she's caring, she's fastidious, and that means attention to detail, a bit of a perfectionist or fussy. And then I thought to myself, well, how did I find this out? So I looked back and I thought, how do I know she's caring and fastidious? So I looked back and I found that she'd said, you haven't washed your paws, have you, sweetheart? So the way that she calls him sweetheart shows that she cares. Okay, so she wants to take care of him. And then the fact that she notices straight away, so that's a clue that she's really particular, fastidious, that he hasn't washed his paws. She doesn't wait for him to do it and goes over immediately, there's another clue, and starts scrubbing. So my evidence is that she says that he hasn't washed his paws. The evidence is that she starts scrubbing it. It says here she came over and started scrubbing. But when I read it, I have a clue that she does it straight away. So I have a clue that she's quite a perfectionist. Okay, so I want you to think about, could you now think of a character and create a role on the wall? So if you're feeling like you're doing the bronze activity and you want a bit of help, complete the role on the wall that I've just done for Mother, and by finding evidence for her liking the fine things. So you could put inside the mother cat, she likes the finer things in life, and then can you go back through the story and find the evidence for that? If you choose to do silver, you can create role on the walls for both mother and father. So completing the bronze and then doing exactly the same for father, giving some emotional words for what he is like and then giving the reason why. And then gold, you can choose 2 or 3 characters. So we mentioned quite a few characters in there. There was Jasmine, Junie. So think, which ones do we have the most evidence for? Because there's probably no point choosing Aunt Junie because I think she only said one thing. So then complete the role on the walls for them and make sure your evidence is really detailed and taken from the text, just like I modelled to you here. Okay. Right, good luck with that, and we'll see you tomorrow for some more inference type questions on chapter 2. Goodbye.